Welcome back to another Beard Invades. This week I've got Zac Higgins. I promised I'd get Zac on, and here he is.
There I am.
Right. Welcome to the Beard Invades, Zac. And thanks for taking the time out of your day to jump on here and let us probe you a little bit.
My pleasure. Welcome to my shop.
Thanks. So, as I usually say to everybody that comes on my invasions, really, that you've kind of hope you've seen the format and what goes on. So I hope you're ready for it. It's not too invasive.
No, it's fun.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look. Do you know how many videos you got on here, Zac? Because there's quite a few.
I don't know, 300 maybe. I'm not sure, honestly. Quite a few.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So you're currently on 47.8K subscribers. That's a nice number. That's really
it's
good.
Unbelievable is what it is.
Yeah. So if you've sorry, go ahead.
We're coming up on 50,000. That is such a crazy big milestone. So I'll probably be doing something kind of fun for that, doing some like giveaways or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. So maybe within a month or so, maybe I don't know, 2 months. By the end of the year, hopefully we'll be at 50,000 and we'll be partying on.
So if you're new to Zac's channel, guys, this is what you'll expect to see when you jump on there. Zac's website's on there, and his Facebook, his Patreon, his Instagram. So head over, check all that out. First question. Tell us a little bit about you, if you don't mind. And this is the sort of thing that your viewers wouldn't usually pick up on or wouldn't know about you.
You know, one of the funny things about me, so at this point now I sell pen blanks. That's kind of my business. So that's the main part of the business, and then YouTube and all that. But when I kind of years before all this kind of started with the resin casting stuff, I actually hated pen turning. I thought it was just silly taking a tiny piece of wood, and I was doing wood. You'd take the tiniest piece of little wood and you'd make it even smaller, and then you'd put a bunch of stuff on it that you bought at a store, and I couldn't stand. I was like a purist. It has to be wood, and it was all about the grain, and I'm like, oh, I hate this. And I think it's kind of funny how my mindset has transformed since kind of those early days when I was starting to make a living doing woodworking and stuff. Nowadays, I love doing pens, obviously, and I mean I sell pen blanks, and I think the biggest thing about it was it's the resin. Now I'm kind of crafting the whole thing, and that changed my whole mindset. With pen turning, and I think that's one of the weird things about me and what I do. I used to, and I actually didn't even like acrylic blanks. I wouldn't even turn them in the beginning. Something that I was store-bought acrylic. And then when I got to actually get my hands dirty, let's say, then the whole game changed for me. And so, I think that's one of the weird things about where I'm at now, and looking back on where I came from, my mindset has totally changed on that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. So anyway, nowadays I just love playing with resin. So that's the game.
You do a good job. I mean, but you do all sorts of things. I mean, you do pen blanks, but you do the blanks for bowls and gear shifters and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I do a lot of different stuff. A lot of the business stuff is most of the products that I sell, the blanks that I sell are mostly pen blanks. But on YouTube, that's what I love about YouTube. I kind of use that for I never really wanted to make it this place where I just do commercials for my pen blanks, like turn a pen with this blank and say, oh, you can go buy it, which makes more sense from a business perspective, but that's not really what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to share information, but I also use it to do things that I probably wouldn't get to do. I wouldn't do turning much because it's resin casting. That's where that's what my products are. They have nothing to do with turning, and I rarely even really sell a lot of the things that I make even, it just, but I like making stuff. That's where
Yeah.
I get to really experiment and get on the lathe. Sometimes I'll test things out for blanks that I'm making or gonna make, but YouTube allows me to get creative and do things that are just plain fun, like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
whole point of it. So it is kind of a weird thing how I have things set up, because I almost do different things than the business, in a sense, is really on YouTube. But I most of it kind of, it overlaps. I mean, it's all the same type of thing, regardless if you're making a pen blank or a bowl blank, really. So
Yeah.
but it's my creative outlet to get in the shop and actually make things other than just, pouring resin, making blanks and cutting them up.
Yeah. And it's good to have that interaction. I mean, you get a lot of people in your lives, and and you do interact with the people in your life. You ask them to pick colours out and things like that. I mean, I picked one on that Saturday for you.
Yep.
And that's what we really like to do. We love to get involved in that, and seeing someone turn out that, someone else has
Yeah.
done, but you
Well,
pick the colour for it.
well, you know what the funny thing about that is, I actually prefer it. Sometimes it gets a little out of control trying to do it, depending on what I'm trying to do. But as long as it's just, pick some colors and everything goes fine, I actually really like doing that, because sometimes, a lot of times the people aren't really thinking about, oh, how's this all going to look? They're just throwing
Yeah.
colors out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it may be some kind of weird combination that there's no way I would have ever even thought to put those 3 or 4 colors together.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty fun in the end. You get these things and you're like, wow, that was actually really good. And to be honest, I can't think of one project or batch of blanks, whatever we were making, that people picked colors and I was just like, oh, when you cut them up or turn it and you're like, oh, that's terrible. It's never been like that. It's always unique. It's always interesting.
Yeah.
I post pics on, Instagram, or I do, sometimes I do the demolding on YouTube, and people flip out. They're like, wow, those look great. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just threw the resin together. These people,
Yeah.
came up with these colors. And so it's a lot of fun for me too. It's fun to be interactive with people instead of just kind of standing in my little casting area doing my thing, which I still do that sometimes off camera. But the other thing I was saying, that I kind of utilize YouTube for certain things. And back when I first got into resin casting, I would do experimenting, heavy experimenting. And the problem with that was, I may learn something myself, but for me to explain it or show it to someone else, it's difficult, kind of,
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to do experimenting, this is where the whole Dunkin' Junk idea came from, because that's kind of how it all started anyway. I was Dunkin' Junk. The reason I got into casting was to dunk stuff in it. Basically, I wanted to put sagebrush, which is my state flower. It's kind of just a
Yeah.
shrub bush thing, but I wanted to be able to make pens out of that. And the only real way that I could figure out how to do it, I learned about resin, and I thought, oh, I could just dump a bunch of it in a trough, put resin around it, and I'm good. So the whole thing started from that kind of idea anyway. But I would always try to see, okay, well, what looks good, what will work. I was curious, mostly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I need to just make videos, because I'm curious to see what happens, and I have no clue what's going to happen anyway. So we may as well just try
Yeah.
things out, see what happens, share videos. And now it's nice on the live streams, we can do that too. And people can kind of see the whole process live. And also, one of the things I like to share information if possible. A lot of people kind of look at me, especially other people that make blanks, and they're like, man, why do you share everything that you do? And I'm like, well, mainly because it's fun. But people that are serious and want to copy stuff that I do, they're going to do it whether I show them how or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the people that I'm showing, it's not like they're going to become competition or something, or major competition to my business. That hasn't happened yet. So I've actually seen the more people making blanks out there, the better I do. It's kind of all ships
right.
rise the same, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so so I think it's fun. And nowadays with the live streaming, because it used to start with just videos, and I still do that sometimes, but we do Dunkin' Junk on Fridays usually on the live stream, and it allows me to not just be the only brain thinking of what should we do with this. I can get other people's input, and a lot of the people that show up, I mean, they're as good at resin casting as I am. Some of them might be better, at certain things, especially. So why not stand there and get more help?
Yeah.
So and it's, like I said, it's fun. It's
Yeah.
I'm blown away at how simple it is to live stream. I mean, literally broadcast a live thing. I remember, when we were kids, if something was live on TV, like that was a big deal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a big production, and it was kind of crazy, and things half the time went wrong. Today, I mean, people are live streaming all over the place from all over the world, and people are coming to these from all over the world. And it's just nuts, like it's mind-boggling when I really think about what I do kind of on a daily, weekly basis with the technology. It's awesome.
It's when I was a kid, you could tell when there was a production from the US on our TV because the picture was different. And, the I don't know what it is. It's some kind of format on the pixels was different. It looks weird. And like you say now, like I'm talking to you the other side,
Yep.
thousands of miles away, and it's great. I love it. I love the way that, things have gone. So you've kind of answered the next question, was why YouTube? So why?
Really.
So why?
Honestly, YouTube. Before I even got into turning and resin casting and all that stuff, I wanted to, like, when I got into kind of the making thing, I guess in a sense I have been all my life. My dad had tools; he's a machinist, so I don't know. This wasn't making things, although it may have been really rough type stuff. I could do stuff. I worked on cars and did different woodworking stuff for a while. But then when I moved into a house when I was living in Vegas, then it was like, oh, I want to do some projects around the house, and I didn't know what that meant, but the idea of having a shop and being able to go down there and do stuff appealed to me for sure. And so that's where I got started. And this was actually before YouTube was really the thing. It was more, YouTube was like cat videos and nobody really watched, it wasn't like today where you go there, if you have a question, you get it answered on YouTube. Or if you want to see something done, today it's totally different. And so I got into it way back in the day. And I was learning woodworking from the Wood Whisperer, Mark Spagnolo. So I don't know if you know about him.
I've heard the Wood Whisperer,
he was one of the first people ever to be doing woodworking like online. This type of the what we kind of think of as having a YouTube channel or doing content now. He was pretty much the first guy, and his stuff was just amazing. I mean, it was TV quality. It was better than TV because it wasn't just a bunch of old men on a with a script. I love the like New Yankee Workshop and all these, but I mean, it's old guys and there's a script and it's kind of stale, where Mark was doing stuff that was the same level of quality, if not better than most of these shows. But he was real, like in my age, I would say that helped. So I learned a lot of woodworking from him. And so, the question of why YouTube, I had already had when I decided to start, trying to make a living. Originally, I was going to try and be a custom furniture builder. Things have morphed quite a bit since then. But when I got into it, I was like, if I could do content, I actually started the first few videos where I was trying to build furniture, and I was actually thinking that I would like document the process of people's pieces that I was making. That was kind of the intention. And so some of the earliest ones are a little bit more like kind of woodworking focused and just general stuff. And then now, once I think the big thing was once I learned about resin and started using it, and it didn't take long. I was blown away. I was like, holy cow, you can do literally anything with this stuff. And why haven't I really heard of it before? Like I got into pen turning and just kind of randomly heard about this resin casting thing through a pen turning forum, but I had never heard of it, I guess, or thought about it in my life. And I'm going, there is no information out there. I got to do a YouTube channel because there's just not that many people out there. And most of the information was either old or it was just kind of terrible quality, you know?
Yeah.
It was just someone had a, you know, they had a camera and they just kind of shot it and it was, you know, like, okay, kind of terrible YouTube videos, you know? And so I was like, I'm going to do this. At least this is something that I can share. Like I may not know exactly what I'm doing, but I'll tell you what, there's no one else out there doing it. So I may as well, even if I'm halfway wrong, at least there's still halfway, you know, I was halfway right. And the idea was to just share the idea with people. Like I'm thinking I had never heard of this before. How many people out there have never heard of this? And how many people could use this, find, you know, different ways to use resin in whatever they're doing, you know? And so that's where it kind of started with YouTube.
It's definitely growing. You know, the use of resin now is definitely growing, especially in the
huge.
Wood. Okay, so inspirations. Was there anyone or anything that inspired you to do what you do?
Well, like I was saying back, but when I kind of got into resin casting, I would actually say that one person that was pretty inspirational was Chad Schimmel at Turner's Warehouse. Right. He had a channel, and so I was learning stuff. And realistically, he didn't have the kind of basic resin casting, you know, for kind of what I was initially looking to do. He had things that were slightly different, but really interesting. Like his channel really, like I said, it didn't give me the basics necessarily. It gave me ideas. Like I was like, I would never even, you know, that didn't even occur to me that you could do, you know, some of the stuff that he was doing. So he kind of really opened my eyes with things. And then like, you know, initially when I was getting into stuff, this was just woodworking, you know, Mark Spagnolo, he was a huge inspiration to me. And there was actually kind of three guys and they actually started the Wood Talk podcast. It was him, Shannon, and Matt. Those three guys were kind of who I was really following early on, just in woodworking and learning how to, you know, work with tools and stuff. So I'd say like kind of a mixture of all those people. And I mean, you know, you get inspiration every day at this point.
Yeah.
But kind of those original inspirations, I'd have to go with those guys.
Okay. Shall we have a little tour of your shop?
Yeah. All right. So I guess I'll just start here. Okay. So I'm kind of sitting over where my live streaming computer is. That's where I was kind of sitting at, a little desk. That's kind of unimportant, but this is the meat and potatoes, the casting area. And so I just recently redid this area so that it's kind of like, this is like the command station at this point. I got pressure pots everywhere. I got everything that I need for casting, like right at hand. I finally a lot of it had to do with this storage. I got a bunch of these rollaway toolboxes. And so at this point, I mean, I got all the colors and things I need right at hand. I got molds down. Oh, that's the glitter drawer. Oh man.
Right.
We got glitter for days in there. But molds and more molds, you know, like, it's just nice having everything like right at hand. I even like the solvents and things that I use. There's some PVC pipes down below. So I'm really excited about this kind of new casting area. And then over here, got my oven is ready, you know, right at hand. Got the resins ready to rock. So I'm pretty excited. And actually, even up above, I have even more storage. So I really love the new kind of like, you know, casting area. And then kind of behind there is just a lot more storage and random stuff for casting mostly. And then the second favorite part of the shop is the turning area. And again, I kind of going off of that, have everything that you need. I bought a gigantic toolbox on wheels and it's got everything for turning that I need. Like all the tools are up top. You know what the funny thing is? I always would walk into the like Home Depot, Lowe's, and they would have these gigantic toolboxes, and they're pretty expensive. They're not cheap. And I would look at them, and I'm like, who's gonna pay $1,000 for a toolbox? This guy, I finally realized, because what ended up happening was I was looking into storage solutions when I was trying to plan this stuff. And I'll tell you, the reason why people buy these is because they are perfect for what they hold tools. It's a toolbox, right? And so like the other options that you have are like cabinets, which the drawers in a cabinet, like kitchen cabinets or even the garage ones, they're just big, things get lost in them. Whereas in a toolbox, you got really small ones, because most tools don't require, a ton of depth. You just need a lot of them. So it's actually, in the end, it's a cheaper way to go. So, and there's my lathe. I really like this Laguna. It just works, basically.
That's a nice machine.
So,
that is.
very, very happy with this thing. And so I kind of wanted to get a lathe that would be kind of the last lathe, that I was going to get, kind of. So I went with the biggest one that Laguna makes, and man, I'll tell you what. The funny thing is, I turn a lot of pens and small. I have a little bottle stopper kind of thing chucked up, and I mean, it's hilarious because I got this massive lathe that I turn pens on. But I got to be honest, it turns pens better than the minis, because it's just so rock solid that, I don't know, it actually works better.
You've also got the option to turn larger stuff if you want, then.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. And I'm starting to finally get into bigger stuff. And so on top of here, we got the grinder for, if I'm using the high-speed steel gouges and stuff. And then my drill press, I finally got smart and put a drill press next to the lathe, basically. Because I drill on both of them, and it didn't make, I find it, like I said, some days, you go through life and you don't even think about what you're doing until you're like, why are the drill bits on the other side of the room? So, and then this is kind of my drop station. I just drop everything when I come in here, and it's got just random tools. So let's see here, kind of pan around. Now this is kind of this is where all the kind of hardcore work gets done. Like when I'm milling stuff, I don't really use hand tools and stuff anymore that much. So my workbench is just kind of a burl station, prepping stuff on that. But I actually do a ton of work on my table saw because I'm constantly cutting blanks up and prepping stuff for the stuff that's on my, like the pen blank products and stuff. So table saw actually gets a ton of work in my shop, along with my band saws, both of them. I got a little 14. This was actually my grandpa's, and my uncle was like, hey, I got this 14-inch bandsaw, do you want it? It was your grandpa's. Everything's original, including the motor. And I mean, I think this thing was like 1930s, I want to say. I think that's, and so I kind of restored it. The motor, the original motor, fired right up. I was like,
so it's good quality. It's good quality.
It is really good. Yeah. The only problem is one of the wheels, the top wheel has kind of a dent in it. So it that's the one problem that I still need to fix, but it runs like a champ. So I use that one for kind of smaller curves and things, and then I got a bigger bandsaw that is like more kind of ripping, and it's just kind of a utility hard, it just hogs stuff apart. So yeah, lots of different kind of stuff. I have a little finishing area here. If I want to just kind of spray finish pieces, I set up a little. It's a box fan on the back. And then I use the filters for like an actual spray paint booth, and it's just kind of attached to the front of the. Let's see if I can get in here. It's basically just a filter attached to a box fan, and then it's super cheap and it works great. So and then coming around the horn here, and you can kind of see I'm in a bigger shop. This is actually my dad's shop. And this thing is huge. He's got all kinds of stuff going on in his, the rest of it. And then I just kind of carved out my little area in here. He gave me a good 800 square feet in the corner, which was very nice of him. And so this is my area. And then coming back in, one of the big things that I like is this big assembly table. it's just nice to have a big table to work on. And I've tried to kind of keep things clean on it for a while, but I've been using it for a couple, die stabilizing, and I don't know. It's nice when I clean it off. It's nice having that thing right in the middle. So that's about it. I don't know if there's
It's a
anything
nice
else.
size shop. There's going to be plenty of jealous makers out there when this goes out.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. I will say that I started. Let me see if I can figure out how to get back to the camera thing. Oh, there it is. I'm gonna have to tilt it real quick. I'll switch back to the front. There we go. I will say that I started out in a 2-car garage, and as much as I love having the space in here, I think the biggest problem is, and you can see my ceilings are way high. Like,
Yeah.
it is not fun to hang lights, and I hung a lot of them. Like things like that. There's always good and bad with any kind of scenario, and so it was nice in a 2-car garage to just, everything was like right at hand. So there are some kind of benefits, I would say, to just working in a smaller shop. You kind of have to have necessities. You don't typically get things too over cluttered, with unnecessary stuff. I think that's one of the problems that I run into sometimes with my shop, and I even have overflow because we have a big shop, and so I end up, I don't really it's like goldfish expand to fit the bowl that they're in, and so if you're in a big shop, you're like, oh, I got room, I can go buy another whatever. And so I don't know, it's good and bad. Sometimes it can be not good.
So obviously, that Makers this year has been cancelled. It's long gone now. So it looks like Nick's putting one on next year. Should we expect to see you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna go this year too, and we were kind of we kept watching, waiting, and you're kind of going, man, every other event on the planet has been canceled. Like, I don't know if this is gonna happen. So yeah, we were bummed that they couldn't do it this year, but hopefully everything will be fixed and cured, and we'll have everything right as rain next year. But yeah, I got to go last year, and it was so fun. I mean, that by far, I haven't been to that many events, but I've been to quite a few turning symposiums, and I've been to Maker Faire, like the big one in Bay Area, about 6 or 7 years ago. And I mean, even compared to that, which that's a huge show, Maker Central was by far the best event that I've ever been to. It just,
I really enjoyed it last year.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I think the thing about it, like Maker Faire is really cool, but it was really heavily focused on, CNC laser, 3D printing, drones, and like fabrication, like heavy fabrication stuff. It was a little bit outside of my what I really do. I was totally into it. It was really fun, but it wasn't exactly what I do. There was really no woodworking there. There was definitely no turning, barely any resin. There was some prop makers, but not like resin casting the way that I do it. And so I go to Maker Central, and I mean, it was like where I was supposed to be. It was like heavily turning focus. Obviously with Nick and Jim putting it on. Lots of turning and a ton of resin. So I was like, okay, this is perfect. And then of course you had everything else in between too. So I just, to me, it felt like it really covered, I don't know, a better spectrum of what, at least for me, for my kind of interest. And then the people were just amazing. It was one of the best trips I've ever been on, and just, So yeah, I would love to be there next year. Hopefully it'll be good to go.
Oh yeah, I did see you there last year. I think you were quite busy on the Easy Woods stand, wasn't you?
Yeah, I was kind of running around all over the place. I was there a lot, and because the other problem was that we had to kind of fill in. We were missing, like, I think one person had to back out, like, kind of at the last minute for demos, and So we were all kind of filling in, it was no problem, but it was kind of like from the minute that I got there, we were kind of doing demos or doing something,
Yeah.
and then you'd get like a little break, and of course, I want to go and talk and meet meet everybody, talk to everybody, see the show too. So I was pretty busy a lot of the time, but yeah.
I had
next year.
Yeah, I had to fit it in when I could, because I was on the Gorilla Glue stand all weekend. So I was trying to get away to speak to people. It was brilliant. Next year is going to be great. Okay, so is there any projects you're working on at the moment? That you can share with us?
Yeah, actually, let me switch my camera around again. Okay. All right, so I actually just got this in a box in the mail today, and so this is from a guy that's been a big supporter of my channel. It's Stephen Daniels. He likes to send things. He likes to do things, but he likes to send me things that we can use to kind of dunk. So I have a feeling that this is all gonna, not all of it necessarily, but we're gonna be playing with some of this stuff on Friday.
Correct.
What this is, they're all resin casts. Like, he made molds of all these things. These are pine cones, and then he cast resin. These kind of end up looking like giraffe patterns. Yeah. He's been making molds of those. I mean, he even made, these are Banksia pods. Like, how crazy. I've never even seen this before, and it's all resin.
That's mad, isn't it?
That's crazy. And then we just did those not too long ago. These are lotus pods. Yeah. And so we molded one of those, and he loves glow powder. So we'll be casting those. And then the other big thing that's on my, there's that big blank that we cast on Saturday during the Easy Wood Tools. Let's try and kind of pull this thing out. So that's the biggest blank I've ever made.
It's pretty big
by far. It's, I don't know how big it is. It's like 8.5 or something like that by, I don't know. It's big. So I'm really looking forward to that. And Doug sent me the wood that we used in that. And then the other thing that we got on the lathe, and I already showed you guys, but this is spin gems. It's kind of like a faux rock looking mixture. And so I cast this, and I'm going to be doing a demo tomorrow for Spiracraft. Thought I'd just kind of quickly turn up a bottle stopper. So that's pretty much what's on. I don't know. I usually have tons of things going on. But those are the big projects that are in the works.
Moving on. Is there a tool that you hate and a tool that you love?
The big bandsaw that I showed you, the 18-inch, I hate that thing.
Right.
And it works okay, but it's just, I from day one, the motor had issues. It would sometimes just not start up, and I don't even know what's wrong with it. And the frame, it's supposed to be like a boxed, I don't know, aluminum or steel. I don't know what it is, but it is just weak and terrible, and I can't stand that thing. I'm waiting for it to just die. It's one of those things that it works. Like, it does it works for what I need it for, but I hate the thing. So I'm waiting for it just to completely die, and I want to get one of the big Laguna bandsaws. That's on my list, but it's, like I said, I don't need it at all. That is going to be a total, just for me kind of tool buy, and so I'm just waiting for that thing to die so I can spend some money on it.
They are nice though, aren't they? They are nice. Those Laguna.
And I don't know, tools that there's so many things that I like. One of my favorites, obviously, is my Laguna lathe. It just does exactly what I wanted it to do. And so I love tools like that. They're a handful of, I really don't like, I like tools that just work. I'm not the type of person that wants to spend time tinkering with tools to get them to work. If I want to buy, I'd rather buy an expensive tool. Hopefully, like, this is the hopefully you're buying, you pay good money for a good tool, and this doesn't always happen. Sometimes I've spent a good amount of money on tools that just are terrible. But in general, I like to, just buy a high quality tool, and it does what I want it to do without me having to make it, fix it, or like get it to do what it's supposed to do. So I'm always happy when tools just do that. I have something in my head how it's going to work, and it just does it, and I'm like, okay, that's how it works. So yeah, and I think another tool, sort of tool that I really love are my CA Technologies pressure pots. I started with a Harbor Freight, and I hated those. That's a tool that I hated. It just the
All
little
right.
clamps
Okay.
were so small, and it was hard to get them to seal, get them sealed up. And those pressure pots just work so much better. That's kind of, since I'm in there doing casting most of the time, that's I got to kind of say something. That's one of my favorite tools that I
Yeah.
use daily.
It's your bread and butter, isn't it? I mean, without those,
Yeah.
you would struggle.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so moving on, direction of channel. So where do you hope to be in, let's say, 12 months' time with your channel? Is it going to stay the
I don't
same, or, you know?
I don't really have big. I'm really happy with where things are at right now.
Yeah.
There's obviously projects that I want to do. I want to do a river table sometime. Um, I wanted, I want to do more big, like pretty big castings and stuff like that. But I mean, overall, the channel, I'm really happy with how things are going. One thing, ever since the like lockdown period started, I started doing more live streams, and I'm finding that I don't know that I can keep up. I was trying to do about 3 a week. And I'm kind of running into a wall with trying to get those things done, get videos done, and keep
Yeah.
the products made. But I do want to add another live day. So I'd say, I guess that's already kind of happening. I'm just going to keep doing that, where hopefully I'll get, a couple days a week live streaming, keep videos rolling, and just kind of, I don't know, keep things where they are. I think for the most part, though, I'm,
Yeah.
like I said, pretty happy with it. I can kind of get things done. Everybody seems to be having a good time. So as long as we're all having a good time, we keep the ball rolling then.
Yeah. Right then. Okay, so moving on to camera equipment. So what do you use to record your videos?
For the most part, for videos, I just use my iPhone now.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to get a video shot if you're not lugging around and setting up 50 billion different things. I used to have a DSLR with and it had to get plugged into a different thing because the microphone wouldn't work, and it just it was such a hassle just getting everything set up. That And nowadays the phones, I mean, honestly, my phone is better picture than the DSLR was, because it was just a cheap the Canon T3i, super cheap DSLR, and the audio was terrible. And at this point, I can even get away with just using the microphone on the phone if I want to. I do have a different mic if I am talking that's slightly better, but it's almost like it's kind of good enough just using the
Yeah.
phone. And so
Yeah.
most of the stuff that you see in just a normal video is that. And then I have a pretty elaborate system for the live streams. I have a couple of the C what is it, C9 920, Logitech C920, I think is what the webcams are.
Yeah.
I have a couple of those, and then I have a Canon, really cheap, just a handy cam set up for that. And then I have a wireless lav system that works pretty good for that. I used to have kind of a headset, and I finally went with the Rode. Oh man, I don't know what it's the bigger. Rode just came out with a really small kind of wireless system. It's not that one. It's the slightly older one.
Yeah.
But it works pretty good, and it's kind of, I got things set up, and now I just kind of turn things on and they work for the most part. So if I had to reset everything up, I don't know what I did, kind of thing, but it's all working pretty good. And then for video editing, I use Final Cut Pro on my Mac. And then for streaming, people might kind of be interested in this. I use OBS. It's the open broadcast software. And it's like the original one. And it's worked pretty good. It's free, and it does pretty much what I want. So not too bad. I'm
a lot of people
with
use that. Yeah. A lot of people use OBS now because it's free, like you say, and it does the job. You can have multiple cameras and all that sort of stuff. You can zoom in and that. But
Yep.
it's interesting that your quality of videos. I mean, they're great, and
Oh,
you
thanks.
use an iPhone, and there's
I'm
a
telling.
lot of people.
Well, here's
You know,
another thing. The one thing that you don't get, I would say that I maybe kind of miss is like the just zoom on the lens. Being
yeah,
able to kind of, with a DSLR, that would kind of, you could maybe do a little bit more with that. But to be honest, putting just an iPhone on a tripod, it can actually kind of get in places that DSLR setup wouldn't even get into.
no,
So
no,
I would say the one big drawback to a phone, which I can probably, there's probably a setting where I can lock it into landscape, but that's the one thing that sometimes happens where I have tripods where it's kind of hanging over things, and it's actually set on the portrait mode, and I can't even barely see the thing,
yeah,
like the screen. And so that's the one thing that I don't like about using a phone, is sometimes that happens, but you can, go back and kind of flip
yeah,
it around
yeah,
if you do that. It's just a little bit more of a hassle. So,
yeah,
yeah, I've been really happy. I think I switched because I've had iPhones forever. And I think when the iPhone 10 came out, that's when, and it wasn't because there was some feature set. I was kind of fed up with that DSLR thing. It just, the audio quality was terrible on it, and without doing extraneous things. And so I got the iPhone 10, and and I was like, wow, I should have done this a long time ago. It's so much easier.
definitely.
Yeah.
You're not alone there. I mean, I did my first 100 videos on a mobile phone
Yep.
until I got my GoPro. But then
Yep.
I got the GoPro because I like to go in water and I like to go do vlogs, that sort of thing. So
Yep.
anyway, okay, so we're nearly there. You've nearly survived. So, do you have a couple of shout outs that I can stick in the description?
Yeah, I was trying to think about it. There's so many people that really I love watching their videos. But one person that I'm really kind of stuck on right now, who's a resin caster, does kind of similar things to me. He's just been doing some amazing stuff. And actually, I think he just hit 100,000. Is Ben over at Ben's Works. So
Oh yeah,
I wanted to give him a shout out, because his video quality is amazing. He explains things well, and he just does really fun projects. So I'm always kind of geeking out and seeing what he does. He always gives me some good ideas to kind of try out in my shop. So I wanted to kind of give him a shout out. And then let's see, actually, hold on. I actually wrote down, I had to think about, I can recognize his logo, but on Instagram, Alpenglow, Scott Huebner. So
all right.
Alpenglow Woodworks. He does some wicked resin burl things. Like he'll make like just cubes, or sometimes he does like carving, and it's that kind of painted on the tops of burls, with just really amazing, where you're kind of painting the top of it, and then the outside is just natural wood, and then you put resin on top. And he does. I love watching whatever he's up to, because I haven't done a ton of things exactly like what he's done, but I definitely want to try some of it out. It's huge inspiration for me. And then the last one, I wanted to give a shout out to Jamie Page, because he just rocks.
Okay.
He is amazing. And I know, a lot of people probably that watch your channel probably know all about Jamie, but he deserves another shout out, because he's
Cool.
it's amazing the stuff that he does for the community. And I wanted to kind of give him a little bit of a shout out, let him know that, we appreciate it. So
Yeah.
make sure to go check out his channel and give him some support.
Brilliant. Well, there you go. You've survived
I made it.
And I'd just like to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time out and being invaded.
Yeah,
I'm
well, thank
sure
you.
everyone's going to enjoy it, because it was a great tour. We don't usually see that part of your shop at all, so I think people are going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
So big thumbs up
Cool.
from me. So, guys, you, for some strange reason, you don't know who Zac is, and you've not seen his videos and his live streams. Come on, guys, hit the subscribe button. Go and check it out, and I'll see you next week.